Hey, what's going on, guys? Lurking from Mobalytics, and I'm coming at you with a Frozen Orb Splintering build, but not exactly the one that you've been seeing going around. That's the staff, that's pure splintering. That build is a lot stronger than this one, but for the T8 content and pit 120s and stuff, like this thing is smashing. So the main difference here is we're focusing on attack speed, and we're scaling both Frozen Orb and splintering damage, so we're taking crit damage everywhere. We have a lot of attack speed accelerating. We've got the Frozen Orbit double pops, Storm Swell, double dipping. We always like that. But then we take splintering on the glove, so it is not the same exact massive value as the one when it's on the staff. But this is sort of like your intro to the full splintering build because that one's really hard to gear. So this is like the stepping stone. You'll play like traditional Frozen Orb, and then once you get all your gear right, then you can transition to the actual splintering build. If you just want to stay on this one, it's pretty strong. Like you'll see. We're gonna give this a whirl, and then I'll go over the whole thing after we do that. We'll do this. We'll kill the boss. Yada yada. And then watch me just get nuked on this because I have no more lives left. We have the right gloves on. But so the other splintering, I'm not sure how much that one gets in practice when you're actually playing. How many conjurations? 40, 50. You know, you can get 64 in the training dummy, but that's the training dummy. It's always different when you have the 5 elites that don't die there. But this one, so when I'm mobbing, I'll see around 20 to 25. But then when I am like sitting there pegging a boss, I'll get upwards of 30, 35. So you'll end up seeing that. But this one plays about the same. It's still really strong. And I think I ran out of mobs. Here they are. Alright, so let's go kill the boss. We'll record the time, and we'll see how long it takes to kill the T8 bosses. Anything under this is going to be far under 3 minutes, but I think the rule of thumb is anything under 3 minutes is very strong. Alright, so we'll just do our enchant swap. Normally, when we're mobbing, it's Frozen Orb and Firebolt. Get that nice mass burning, and you're killing stuff so fast that the Ice Blaze can't really get too choppy, but now they can. So let's get after it, and we'll start our timer, and let's find the flame guy. Where is he? We got Shadow, Cruel, Maelstrom. Attack these guys for a little while. As you can see, they're still getting shredded, and then I sort of like to hop from boss to boss. Because, there we go, we got them all on top of me now. That's really good. Then we can get the splintering to go from person to person. I like to hop from boss to boss, that way they sort of stay at like equally low health, so I have chances for splintering to chain between them. And then, you have the Frozen Orb cast going and hitting the other. And boom, that's my fastest kill, 48 seconds. So 45, I'd say, because I started it a little before they actually spawned. Yeah, so that's actually my fastest kill. And then let me pick this up. Let's go over the gear. Alright, so the actual gear for the build is Shaco, obviously, for your cooldown, your ranks. Materials, you got your damage reduction, your max resistance to all elements, best in slot. And then after this run, I'm going to attempt another T8. I'm going to take off all the Ubers, and we're going to see how it performs. Next, you have your splintering on your gloves. I do want ranks to core because I want to scale both, but then I have so much crit chance in the build that I don't need crit on the gloves, so I take its attack speed and crit damage, then crit damage tempers, and then you can do like a lucky hit chance to freeze or stun, but I just took lightning spear lucky hit, just so it, all the spears out, they can make more Frozen Orbs. Next is Tibalt's, and something actually really funny. You don't really need Tibalt's, but it is 20% damage. But if you are suffering on like the tankiness side, this is actually sort of hilarious. If you can get just like a random pair of axial conduits that have GA damage reduction, and like you don't really even need to mass to work them up, but like these provide so much DR that like if you really want to just be giga tanky, I could see this actually happening in a lot of builds as when they come out with new Horde tiers and the enemies start to hurt really bad, people are just going to be wearing axial conduits on their pants so they can get like this stupid amount of damage reduction. Because these are stronger than Tyraels, if you think about it. Well, no, never mind, because these aren't GA, but these are still very strong. Next is your Asus boots. That way you only need 60% crit chance. The Asus give you another 40, and because of Conj Mastery, you're going to be permanently at 200% move speed, always getting it. Next, we're going to opt for a wand. I like the wand because it's got the fastest attack speed, 1.2. I know the swords have the crit damage inherent fix, but it's fine. You're going to want int max life crit damage, chance for Forb to cast twice, and crit strike damage. And then we're going to take Storm Swell here. This is double dipping, and I think triple dipping on frozen enemies when you pop ice armor. So I did try, on this build specifically, I did try the Lightning Spear cast twice tempers, and because this is like more of a Frozen Orb build, like if you take off Splintering, you don't notice that big of a difference, as opposed to if you take like Shredding Blades or something. So Splintering is doing really well for this build for the mobbing and stuff, but it's not absolutely hard carrying. Like this build does have strength on its own. I've been kind of swapping back and forth and seeing how it performs, and it's still pretty strong, but obviously it doesn't mob as hard because it's missing this. Next, the focus, standard stuff: crit, cooldown, intelligence, chance for 4 to cast twice, crit strike damage. And then this is where I'm going to put my Frozen Orbit, so those double pops, really good damage. Next, we're going to have accelerating. The whole goal of this is I want a ton of attack speed, so no Tal Rasha, because Tal Rasha doesn't have attack speed. I really don't need the cooldown from it, but if you wanted to, you could take Tal Rasha. I don't think it would make too big of a difference. You're just going to cast a lot slower, but so for this, attack speed, crit chance, crit strike damage, and like if you have a ton of crit chance already, you can drop crit chance for intelligence. And then I do really want an unstable current cooldown reduction roll. That way I can keep that up for even more attack speed, and then crit damage. Next, Starless. Attack speed, crit chance, makes the core. Can't beat it. 50% damage, 50% mana cost reduction. And lastly, we have our Fractured Winterglass. For this one, you definitely want, obviously you want a high aspect value. People always ask, what is the most important thing on this? And it's basically, the most important thing on this is the ranks to Conj Mastery. Like, I think that's what you want the Masterwork to hit, I'm pretty sure. Like, all 3. Or if not, you want 2 to Conj Mastery, and you want 1 to, the Conjuration cooldowns are reduced when Frozen Orb explodes. That's like the worst case scenario that you want with this. But besides that, there is the fact that you really do need to get that 0.3 value when it drops on the ground, because if you get the 0.1, it's just going to be terrible, and it's not going to reduce your conjurations a ton. And let's move into, so skill bar. I have to not take Ice Blades on the skill bar. I just don't need it. And then I want to cast more Lightning Spears, getting enough Ice Blades from the enchantment and the amulet, so we don't really need it. Skill tree, we'll go over it. You got your standard 2 and Firebolt to progress. Max out Frozen Orb. I actually don't take Greater Frozen Orb because I don't need it. We have so much Vuln from the Spears. Take our Elemental Dominance. That way we can get the 12% damage. Just take the minimum teleport, looking for Shimmering, so we can get the 30% DR when we teleport. Take Ranks and Glass Cannon. I opt to not take Elemental Attunement because, quite frankly, I don't really care about it anymore. I do take Shimmering Ice Armor. If you want more damage, you can take Mystical. That's totally fine. This build will definitely have enough cooldowns with all the Ice Blades that you can. But I just like Shimmering. That way I can always have my Ice Armor up. I'm able to squeeze 2 into Precision Magic. So that's good for the Lucky Hit chance for the Amulet. And then I do always keep Summon Hydra on, just because when I am bossing, I don't have Burn from Firebolt, because I want the Ice Blades chippy-choppying the boss. So I do opt to take that, so it's just always on. I don't have to worry about changing skill points ever. And then this Summon Hydra is how I get the burn for single target. Get our Summoned Ice Blades, reduces all the cooldowns when they are chippy-choppying. Lightning Spear. You could skip this node because you don't really need the stun, but it will help stagger the bosses faster, so that is still nice. And everything's going to be frozen anyway. Because sometimes there's builds where like you might not want to take this stun, because you want the enemies to rush you and like clump and not just be stuck in place wherever they spawn and stuff. And you got your 3 in Conj Mastery, so you can scale this up. We got our 3 points of Mana Shield, 30% DR. Get our Protection Barrier. When we cast the cooldown, got our 3 ranks in Dev Blaze, mainly important for bossing. And we take our all 3 here, the Hoarfrost, Icy Touch, and the Permafrost. Damage with Frost. Just 2 points in Unstable Currents, because I'm not doing Overflowing. I just after it for the attack speed. I'm not trying to have the Crackling reset all my cooldowns, not really necessary. And then we do take Ver's Mastery. Some people ask, so why are you running Ver's Mastery on a Frost build? And the reason is because Ver's Mastery does work with all skills. It only requires that you get charged, which is just critting with a shock skill, and you're charged for 25% for 5 seconds. You get 25% DR, and then you get about 10% damage when you're mobbing when it chains to another enemy. But when you are hitting single target, it's 10% chance that you'll deal 250% damage of what you hit them with. So that is 25% damage. So Ver's Mastery probably still is basically Sorcerer's best passive. Unless you're running a burning build, then Combustion's pretty OP. Alright, let's go into the Paragon. I think I have this where I want it. So I opted to take Reinforced because I wanted to be giga tanky. If you wanted to get a little bit more damage out of the build, you could swap this for Unleash. That one's up to you. Next we move over to We move over to Enchantment Master. We take Elementalist. Buffs our non-fizz up a little bit and our all resist. Then we take Enchanter. I like Enchanter. You know, and non-fizz is always important. I think the build, if you spec it right, if you were to put Unleash on this board, you are going to hit the non-fizz cap if you like move a couple things around a little bit. But I still like Enchanter because it is a really fat amount of non-physical. And you can kind of consider it as a multi just by how much it increases your additive by. Anyways, we grab our Frigid Fate, 1.6x damage to vulnerable enemies. Next, I take Tactician on Burning Instinct. I like Tactician here a lot because, you know, we lost a lot of our defensives this season. Just mainly like Ice Armor stacking up. So I do like the Burning DR. Get a little bit of damage to the Burning that pumps up. And we path our way up to this Elite DR. A lot of classes get jealous of us when they learn that we have Elite DR on our Paragon, but that's about all we got. Next, we go over to Icefall. Do a quick path through up to the Icefall Legendary node for 25% damage. We're going to scoop up this exploit glyph just for 1.1x multi. Just take the bare minimum. Not looking for too much additive out of here. But I do end up grabbing 39 dex in Destruction on Searing Heat. It's about all I could muster out of the build, but 39 is fine. Crit strike damage is really important for scaling Splintering. We do another quick path through for 25 dex on Flame Feeder on Ceaseless Conduit. Another 1.1x multi. And then last but not least, Conjurer. Conjuration skills have a 20% increased duration. We don't really care about the increased damage because it's not the Conjurations doing the damage, it's the Splintering aspect. But we do want them to last 20% longer because that means we have 20% more spears out. Alright, that's it for that. And let's go gear down and we'll try this again. So you may be thinking to yourself, wow, dude, that's super dope. You got like 3 Ubers and they're all 12 out of 12 perfectly rolled. So like, how does this work? How is this going to work for me? Well, I think it's going to work pretty well. We are in mostly 0 out of 12 gear. I did roll them really well with like crit damage everywhere. You know, we got to check. I did need to get a mana per second roll to keep the mana up because without Starless it hurt a little bit. But, you know, I just took Ver's and Ver's Mastery for the DR and Ever Living for the DR as well on my chest and helmet. That replaced Shaco and Tyrael's. And then I replaced Starless with a Shredding Blades ring. And I basically have attack speed, crit chance, and crit damage everywhere. And then these 2 resource cost reduction tempers are helping out a lot. So we're just Giga Blasting T6, and it's going pretty well. So let's get this last wave, and then we'll kill the bosses, and yeah. So at 0 out of 12, you're probably not looking at a T6 unless like you hit all the fixes that I did. So most likely you're probably looking at like a T5, like starting out. If your gear's really, really terrible, probably a T4, and it's getting a little dicey, so I gotta focus up. I was trying T7s for a bit too long, and it just wasn't happening in the gear. It was a survivability issue. So that's what's usually with this build. What happens is it's not, in a lot of builds too, as you go up a tier, it's often not a damage issue until like you go to 8. It's usually strictly a survivability issue. So it's funny, you know, what really helps is like getting your materials and getting, you know, all the damage reduction stuff on it. So it's just funny. But if you get your gear, you know, all 12 out of 12, you'll kill the enemies faster, and then they won't pile up on you as much. So like you should be able to go up to the tiers. I think if I had like kept all the gear that I had on and just removed the 3 Ubers with what I have now, and like actually like 8 out of 12 or 12 out of 12, like I would have been blasting the 8 just fine. Alright, so now let's get into this boss. I gotta make my little swap, get out my blades, and I needed to change something in the skill tree just to get Summon Hydra back, because I was messing around with some stuff. Alright, so let's get a little timer going, because I'm curious how long this is going to take. I don't think it's going to be that pretty, to be honest. Where's Flame? Go after Flame first. Oh no, they're getting nuked. Yeah, I had the damage for the 7, but it just would have taken 8. I was just getting nuked. Just didn't have the DR for it. Yeah, 1 minute 15 seconds. So, not too shabby whatsoever for a 6. With no gear, we got almost 500 500 Aether. Able to open up this chest, and then open up this one for a bunch of, what's this one give? For, you're gonna get a ton of Anglith. 6, 7, 800, something like that. You should be able to upgrade your gear, and then move up to the next tiers. Alright. Peace.